Welcome to another video of PDF models. Today we are doing Baldwin tractor, part of the chassis. I'll go through that in a minute. As I do recommend you paint all the parts first. As you can see, this one is already painted, and the same as with the bonnet. We'll go through that. So I do recommend painting all the parts, getting everything all flat and smooth, and do all the bits and pieces like on the bonnet, the louver panels and all the rivet detail before assembly. You can assemble it beforehand to make sure it all fits, just in case you have to file bits down. So okay, first of all, take one side of the chassis, drill out 3.8mm into the bearing holes on those two, and glue in from the side the two little brass bearings. So do not glue them on the back, because when the connecting rods are connected, it runs on that and not the plastic. And if you do put it the wrong way around, you can always put a washer on the outside if needed. So yeah, glue them in, drill that hole out to accept the brass tube, make sure that slides in and out nicely. So do that to both frames. Next is to fit the back buffer beam support, the middle and the front. There's tiny little slots inside where you can fit 2mm nuts inside. Press them in. If you want, you put a little bit of glue over them. If you do that, put the screw in first, to make sure that it screws in. Put a little bit of Eldite to cover the hole, so you can so don't fall out, because this one, they keep falling out on mine. So you screw, put your nuts in, screw three bolts onto that one on the middle and 2 on the rear. Once you bolt them into place, paint over, or you can put a little bit of filler and tie it up so it looks like there's no screws on one side. It's up to you really. Next is you have the pre-assembled gearbox already set to the correct gauge, all been pre-tested. So you didn't have to build that, I've done that for you. You fit the drive motor to the front axle, slide that in, slide the rear wheel in, can be a bit tricky. Take the other frame, slide that over, So the motor is just literally hanging at the minute. Put your screws in. As usual, we'll screw for that again. Okay. Screw all them into place. So, as usual, one of my bolts has fallen out. It's a little bit tricky. It goes together very easily once you keep the nuts in place. Now you have yourself a built chassis. Won't roll because the motor at the minute is loose. Take your motor mount. The motor is free to float about. I did that is just in case something's slightly out. So it's always going to work. What we do, slide that in, and one nuts are falling out. That holds that into place. Screw that in. So do not over tighten. You'll damage the plastic. And if your bolts do keep falling out, use a pair of tweezers to get them back in again. One more. There you go. So now the motor is fixed in position. It's got room to wobble about. It can't move anywhere. So that is your chassis. Okay, 2 seconds. Right, next is we're going to be making up the connecting rods. the rear crank, which has the bigger arch, what you do is you screw in a cow's bolt from the rear, not too tight, so it sticks out and it's nice and square. And do the same to the smaller crank, and then once you've screwed that into place, you can fit the rod to the front, the short one, cleaning out the holes to make sure you can fit the little brass bush. I'll show you that in a second. So what you do, I'll zoom in a bit. Take the rod, get a little top hat bearing so it's facing the focus that way down. Slide on your rod, take your little spacer, do not drill that out so it's really loose. You want so it screws on up against the brass bush so it captivates that into place. Next, take the longer rod, I don't know what I've done there. Right, that's it. Fill that over the top with the brass bush, that way round, so it captivates it. Wind your 2mm knot on. Tighten up gently. Put a dab of super glue on the thread so you have a crank set looking like that. Okay. Next, we're going to fit the rods to the chassis. All we do is two 2mm grub screws which are on the side of the crank. Mine's been off and on so many times now. Slide them on so the bearing, the crank sits up next to the bearing, not too tight. Then tighten the grub screws into place. So it looks like that. So repeat to the other side. What you want to do now is you want to try and get the cranks pointing upwards. Like so. Tighten up the grub screw. So pointing upwards, and then the next ones you set up 90 degrees from each other. Once you're happy, you think they're 90, tighten them up. And then what I'd recommend is blocking it up, not running about these ones at the minute. Test run, so the wheels rotate nice and smooth. Don't put full power on it, put a speed controller if you've got one, or a train controller to the motor, making sure it runs nice and slow, no bind spots. If there is a bind spot, adjust the cranks to suit your chassis, and then once you're happy it runs smooth, tighten it all up, and then we can carry on moving on. Right. I'll be back for part 2 in a minute.